The world watching to see how Israel will respond after Iran's massive drone and missile attack on Saturday.
Israel's war cabinet is meeting right now to discuss potential retaliation as world leaders, including President Biden, urge restraint. Now, of the more than 300 projectiles launched by Iran, 99% were intercepted by Israeli, American, and other allied forces. U.S. Central Command says it destroyed more than 80 drones and at least 6 ballistic missiles from Iran and Yemen.
Iran's attack was in response to the Israeli strike on Iran's consulate in Syria, which killed 12 people, including 2 top commanders. But now, top U.S. officials are worried that a potential Israeli response could provoke a wider regional war that the U.S. could be dragged into.
Joining us now is NBC's Richard Engel from Jerusalem, and also with us is retired 4-star General Barry McCaffrey, an NBC News military analyst. Richard, fill us in on the latest from this Israeli war cabinet meeting.
So this is a fast-moving story. As of this morning, it seemed like the U.S. was getting what it wanted, that it had succeeded in convincing Prime Minister Netanyahu, with a call from President Biden directly to Netanyahu, not to respond, to take what happened over the weekend, quote, as a win. The fact that Iran fired hundreds of drones and missiles and that nearly all of them failed or were shot down, caused almost no damage in this country. There was a security cabinet meeting a short while ago. We know that there are deep divisions within the security cabinet. We know there are deep divisions within Prime Minister Netanyahu's own government. He's formed a government with some very hardline political leaders in this country, one of whom yesterday said that Israel should go crazy against Iran in response to Iran's attack. And now, as that meeting has wrapped up, there are numerous reports, both in the U.S. media and in Israeli media, and they seem to be quoting each other, suggesting that Israel is not done yet, that Israel might carry out some sort of response, a retaliatory response to Iran's retaliatory response, and that it could come very soon, potentially even tonight, and that Israel is looking for a way to calibrate its military action in a way that it sends a message to Iran, sends a message to the Israeli people, presumably, that Israel will respond to this unprecedented attack, but without triggering a regional war. How it does that without thumbing its nose at President Biden and the U.S., if that's possible, are still open questions. But like I said, it seems like an undecided issue, and it seems very fluid, but it does not seem as clear as it was several hours ago that the region was potentially going to move on after a very close call. So we will see what happens tonight. But we have not received any public orders, as far as I know, telling people to seek shelter or to change their behavior.
Richard Engel in Jerusalem, thank you so very much. So, General, Iran targeted what they were about to do, and they did so for hours, if not days, but they also launched this huge arsenal of weapons. I mean, more than 300 drones and missiles. How do you see this operation?
Well, of course, Richard Engel makes a major point is the purpose of the Biden administration and most of the international community, to include Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, and other Arab countries, is to prevent widening and intensification of the war. And it's also quite correct that, General Eric Kurilla, the CENTCOM commander, pulled together a coordinated regional response, primarily the United States, naval missile destroyers, and also air-to-air fighters. So it's unbelievable successful defense of Israel against a determined attack. But that was not a politically symbolic attack. That wasn't telegraphed. That wasn't slow motion. That was coordinated, put 350-plus missiles into military targets at the same time. That was 120 ballistic missiles. It's a 12-minute flight time from Iran. They were trying to knock out the F-35 fighters in the Negev desert and cause catastrophic human losses. So I think right now Israel is struggling to understand, how do we regain deterrence? Deterrence has been lost. This is unprecedented, as you pointed out, from a homeland security standpoint, direct attack on Israel.
General, how concerned are you about the U.S. getting dragged into a wider regional conflict?
Well, it's something to be worried about, and again, the triggering event would probably be Hezbollah in the north. If 120,000 Hezbollah fighters and a massive number of missiles and rockets attacked Israel, they'd be fighting for their existence. And at that point, the president would have to decide, to what extent are we going to come in and try and prevent the annihilation of the Jewish people. But barring that, I think President Biden and Secretary Blinken correctly are going to keep us out of it. Now, I'd be probably happier if they were making these signals in private diplomatic discussions with the Israelis than from the front lawn of the White House. But nonetheless, Biden's going to try and keep us at peace, and he's right to do so.
General Barry McCaffrey, thank you so very much. Always great seeing you.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.